we have the great honor to welcome His Holiness Krishna Ksetra Swami. And yeah, you might know him. He is an author, guru, preacher, singer, intellectual, etc., etc. Today we will be hearing from him from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 6, if I'm not mistaken. And well, at the end of this lecture, which will be around 1 hour or so, you will have the possibility to ask questions. You can unmute yourselves at the end of the lecture and or write questions into the chat box if you like. So, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
As we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Berlin Yatra ki jai.
Hi.
I'm happy to be with you this evening. Es freut mich, mit euch zu sein heute Abend. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kalamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadagammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sadivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitanscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you all for joining us in Berlin, so to say. Some of you I see from faraway places, and I'm happy to see ISKCON Oslo is also with us. So yes, this is certainly I'm always happy to see devotees coming together, and we see that despite or maybe because of recent world transpiring conditions of the pandemic and so on, we've sort of all discovered the use of the internet for connecting. So that's also nice. It's not quite the same as being in the same room, but it's close. Okay, so we're going to be reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, focusing on text number 6. I may discuss also some of the context of this, but let's get into it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 I'll read just the Sanskrit of verse number 6. Krishna speaking to Arjuna, of course, and he says, Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim svam adhishtaya sambhavam yatmamayaya. Again. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim svam adhishtaya sambhavam yatmamayaya. And one more time for an even 3. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim svam adhishtaya sambhavam yatmamayaya. I'll jump to the translation and we'll get back to some of the words in the verse. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Krishna says to Arjuna, although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. There's a somewhat longer purport. Let's see how far we get before we may want to say something, to discuss, to explain. Purport, the Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth. Although he may appear like an ordinary person, he remembers everything of his many, many past births. And the word births is in quotation marks. Whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few hours before. Indeed, I have experience of this. If someone is asked what he did exactly at the same time one day earlier, it would be very difficult for a common man to answer immediately. He would surely have to dredge his memory to recall what he was doing exactly at the same time one day before. And yet, men often dare to claim to be God or Krishna. One should not be misled by such meaningless claims. Then again, the Lord explains his Prakriti, or his form. Prakriti means nature, as well as Swarupa, or one's own form. The Lord says that he appears in his own body. He does not change his body as the common living entity changes from one body to another. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has a different body in the next birth. In the material world, the living entity has no fixed body, but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so. Whenever he appears, he does so in the same original body by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in this material world in his original, eternal form with two hands holding a flute. He appears exactly in his eternal body, uncontaminated by this material world. Although he appears in the same transcendental body and is Lord of the universe, it still appears that he takes his birth like an ordinary living entity. And although his body does not deteriorate like a material body, it still appears that Lord Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth. But astonishingly enough, he never ages beyond youth. At the time of the Battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home, or in other words, he had sufficiently aged by material calculation. Still, he looked just like a young man, 20 or 25 years old. Sometimes it said he was 16 years old, or appearing 16 at the time. Here Prabhupada says 20 or 25. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us, although he is the oldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future. There was a film performance of the Mahabharata done several years ago, directed by Peter Brook. It was originally performed on stage in Paris, and it was a 9-hour performance. And the cast, the different actors were from all different countries. And they produced that then as a film, which they reduced to about 5.5 hours. And it was a bit of a shock for me initially to see the person cast as Krishna looking to be around 50 years old. After some time, I got used to it. He was a good actor, but it was also strange for me to see one man playing the part of Bhishma. We think of Bhishma as a very big, robust kind of person. This person was from East Africa, I think, from Ethiopia, and it was very thin. So it was interesting. Okay, he never grows old like us, although he is the oldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future. Neither his body nor his intelligence ever deteriorates or changes. Therefore, it is clear that in spite of his being in the material world, He is the same unborn, eternal form of bliss and knowledge, changeless in his transcendental body and intelligence. Factually, his appearance and disappearance is like the sun's rising, moving before us and then disappearing from our eyesight. When the sun is out of sight, we think that the sun is set, and when the sun is before our eyes, we think that the sun is on the horizon. Actually, the sun is always in its fixed position, but owing to our defective, insufficient senses, we calculate the appearance and disappearance of the sun in the sky. We calculate. And because Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are completely different from that of any ordinary, common living entity, it is evident that he is eternal, blissful knowledge by his internal potency. And he is never contaminated by material nature. The Vedas also confirm that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unborn, yet he still appears to take his birth in multi-manifestations. The Vedic supplementary literatures also confirm that even though the Lord appears to be taking his birth, he is still without change of body. In the Bhagavatam, he appears before his mother as Narayana with 4 hands and the decorations of the 6 kinds of full opulences. His appearance in his original eternal form is his causeless mercy bestowed upon the living entities so that they can concentrate on the Supreme Lord as he is, and not on mental concoctions or imaginations, which the impersonalist wrongly thinks the Lord's forms to be. The word Maya or Atma Maya refers to the Lord's causeless mercy, according to the Vishvakosha dictionary. The Lord is conscious of all his previous appearances and disappearances, but a common living entity forgets everything about his past body as soon as he gets another body. He is the Lord of all living entities because he performs wonderful and superhuman activities while he is on this earth. Therefore, the Lord is always the same absolute truth and is without differentiation between his form and self, or between his quality and body. A question may now be raised as to why the Lord appears and disappears in the world. This is explained in the next verse, or we might say in the next 2 verses. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum dinataranam ajopi sannavyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakriting svam adishtaya sambhavam yatma mayaya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Krishna has begun this chapter with some autobiography. and he's giving some history of the teaching of what he is now teaching, the teaching of yoga. He uses the word yoga in the first, in the second verse, first verse also, I think. Yes, yogam, imam vivasvate yogam. So he's given this history which goes back to, we can say, super ancient times, not just ancient, but super ancient, cosmic beginnings, the time practically before time. And he says he's spoken the same, Prabhupada uses the word science, the same science of yoga, to the sun god, and then from there it has passed down, but problem happens. Yoga brashta, there is a disturbance. Why is there a disturbance? Yoga nashta, sorry. Because of time, sakalena, yoga nashta. As a result of time, the word kala, of course, means time, but it implies destruction. It's the movement of time which is destructive. Time is destroying, of course, everything in this world, but it does not affect anything or anyone in a negative way in the non-temporal world. So everything being subject to destruction in this world, the teaching, even the teaching of Krishna, is also subject to destruction. Not exactly destruction, but becomes obscured, it becomes confused, it becomes lost. We all know the game, which may go by different names. I don't know what it is in German, but sometimes it's called Chinese whispering, where everyone sits in a line and the person on one end of the line is spoken to, given some message, whispered in the ear. That person should then turn to the person next to him or her to repeat what that person has heard from the first person, and so on down the line. And then you get to the last person and you ask the last person to speak out loud what the first person's, what he or she heard, and you get something completely different. Something completely different from what was originally spoken. And why is that? Because we don't hear properly. So that happens even with Krishna's teachings. And we may ask why that is, and Krishna's answer is sa kalena. That yoga, sa yoga kalena nashtaha. And this gives Krishna reason. He's explaining to Arjuna, why am I speaking? I'm speaking to you something which I have spoken before, so it's not something new. And why am I speaking to you? I'm speaking to you because you are my friend, you are a devotee. So actually this whole section, we can say, is, what is the broad topic? it seems to me the broad topic is adhikara, it's qualification. Who is qualified to speak this teaching, and who is qualified to receive the teaching? So Krishna starts by saying, I'm the one who's been teaching this all along. Now I'm teaching it to you. Why am I teaching it to you? Who is Arjuna? He's just some soldier. He's just an ordinary householder. He's not a Brahmin, he's not a sannyasi. So what's his qualification? That Krishna is saying, Bhakto si me sakacha. You are my bhakta, you are my friend. That's why I'm speaking it to you. But now Arjuna raises a doubt, a reasonable doubt, because he, at this point, it's not until much later in the, really with the 10th chapter, but especially in the 11th chapter, that he's going to really grasp, graphically realize who he's talking with. Because he's thinking, yes, Krishna, you're my friend. And, we kind of grew up together. Not exactly grew up. Okay, I've read somewhat recently an explanation, some discussion of Mahabharata, some analysis. And the first time Krishna meets the Pandavas is at the Swayamvara of Draupadi. So by this time, the Pandavas are young men. But it's been quite some time since then. How long? I don't know. But presumably some years. So they've been good friends. And now, surprisingly, Krishna is volunteering to be Arjuna's chariot driver. Surprisingly only if we think of him as, in terms of tattva, in terms of who he is as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if we think in terms of rasa, if we think of relationship, Sakya rasa, they are friends. So there's a kind of equality there. So for them, this is, in a sense, as it should be, that Krishna is chariot driver. The relationship has changed, of course, from near the beginning of chapter 2, because Arjuna, in his great disturbance, has requested Krishna to now instruct him. He says, now you be my teacher, my guru, because I'm so disturbed, I need your advice. Well, that still is, he's asking him to be guru. He's not addressing him yet as God. The relationship is still one of friendship. And so seeing in that light, Arjuna asks this question, what are you saying about sun god and Ikshvaku and Manu? What are you talking about? Aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvata. Katam etad vijaniyam. How am I supposed to understand this? What you have said previous in the beginning, Tvam ado proktavan. You need to clarify that for me. So now Krishna is going to start identifying himself as the Supreme Person, that person who doesn't change, as Srila Prabhupada is saying in so many ways in his purport. So our Krishna now is going to say two things. One is that both of us, you and me, you Arjuna and me Krishna, we've gone through many births and we've gone through them together. And this alludes to something which is never stated explicitly in the Bhagavad Gita, but it's understood from commentaries and possibly it's mentioned in Mahabharata, I don't remember, that Arjuna and Krishna are Narayana, Rishi. They are the same lords, are the same persons, Narayana. Sort of two sages in one. And so here, Krishna says, we've appeared together so many times. And the second thing he says is, I remember it all and you don't. So here's the big difference. The difference is one of memory and lack of memory. And even if someone says, well, I do remember my previous life. I've had some hypnosis, I had some regression, and I remember my previous life. I remember that I was Napoleon Bonaparte or Kaiser Wilhelm II or something. Okay, maybe. So how much do you remember from that life? Do you remember in that life what you were doing when you were 10 years old in that life? What you were doing when you were 23 years old? When you met your life partner in the previous, so mostly we are so forgetful. We are so forgetful. As much as we are forgetful, Krishna is not forgetful. And this is even, this is, we say in English, this is mind-boggling. This is so incomprehensible. This is something Krishna asks us to accept. Bahuni me vyatitani vartamanani charjana tani sarvani janmani. All of these births, he says, aham veda, I know them. Natvam veta, you do not know them. You do not remember. So this is an indication also of Krishna's qualification for speaking what he is speaking. This is a major qualification. But now the question will arise that how is it on the one side you're talking about so many births? And on the other side, you're saying, I remember them all. That can only mean one thing, that you are birthless, actually. You are not really taking birth, isn't it? How can you both take birth and remember every birth? And so Krishna is answering that in today's verse. Ajo, aja, api, although I am unborn, and although I am the Lord of all beings, Bhutanam Ishvara, I am the Ishvara, the Lord of all beings, api, and I am avyaya atma, myself is perpetual. I whose self is avyaya, is perpetual or is ongoing. Although these things are true, that I am actually the Lord of all and I am therefore not born, still, sambhavami, I appear, I manifest, I enter. He doesn't say enter exactly. Sambhavami, Prabhupada translates, I do incarnate. And what is it that's coming in this world? Svam prakritim, my nature, which Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, means swarupa, his Krishna's original form. The Lord himself, without any change, is appearing, and then we get this analogy of the sun. The sun is appearing. It's not that the sun is changing, we all know, it's just there, and it's appearing as we understand the earth turns. I don't know what the flat earth people say about that. That's another subject. Sambhavami, and how do I appear? How does that work? How does it work that it's possible for the Supreme Person who's never born, who never dies, who is unforgetful, who forgets nothing, how is it possible for such a person to appear in this world? The answer, Atma Maya. And Prabhupada is explaining, Maya he's quoting the Vishvakosha Sanskrit dictionary. This is one of a few Sanskrit dictionaries. Sanskrit, so it's not Sanskrit English or Sanskrit German or Sanskrit Polish or whatever. It's Sanskrit, which means first we have to know the Sanskrit in order to read it. So according to this Vishvakosha, kosha means treasury or collection. It's a sort of universal collection of words. Prabhupada's saying Atma Maya means the Lord's causeless mercy. The word Maya has several meanings, and one of them is mercy. The one that Prabhupada is highlighting, and it can also mean illusion, and it can mean magic. By my magic, the Lord appears. I appear, Krishna says, and this seems like a contradiction. So this is, of course, brings us into the area of paradox, of inconceivability. And Krishna is very aware that this is the situation. He's aware, he recognizes that our minds, our limited minds, are troubled by something like that, by such a understanding. And so jumping over the two verses, the two next verses in which Krishna is explaining why he appears. He's appearing to make some corrections, to reestablish, to again give the teaching. And this will be one of the very few times in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna mentions Dharma. It's quite surprising, really. The whole Bhagavad Gita begins with the word Dharma. Dharma Ksetra Kurukshetra Samaveta Yuyutsava. We understand the whole Mahabharata is about Dharma, concern of what is Dharma. The Bhagavad Gita must be that Krishna is going to explain now what is Dharma, but he hardly ever uses the word. He comes with this, shocking statement at the end, having given up all Dharma, just surrender to me. What? Wait, you were going to say what is to be done and what is not to be done. And now you're saying whatever it is, just forget it and surrender to me. So, Krishna gives that in 2 verses, very compact explanation of his purpose, which is still part of his explaining his qualification, his adhikar for teaching. He says, in effect, he says, when I'm coming, I have a purpose, a very clear purpose from day one. And you cannot say that about yourself. We are born into the world totally ignorant, just knowing one thing, and that is our mother, and eventually we get to know our father, and Annamoya, we we don't know anything. We don't even know how to get the food that we put in our mouths. So in that state of helplessness is so much the opposite of Krishna's, I want to say, helpfulness. He is not helpless, he is helpful. He is full of help. That is to say, he gives us his help. So that in the next verse, anticipating our bewilderment, he says, Janma karma chame divyam. My birth, he says, my activities, if you can understand them, hey, you're liberated. You're back home, back to Godhead. Which is an invitation to get to know what he's saying, but it's also, or get to know, or get to understand Krishna's birth, tattvata. But at the same time, he's saying it's, don't expect that to be so easy to understand. Now, I want to jump to chapter 9, because here Krishna also very explicitly recognizes an apparent paradox when he says, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina. This is verse 4. Matstani sarvabhutani na chaham teshvavastita. He says, by me, in my unmanifested form of Yaktamurti, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, Matstani sarvabhutani, na cha aham teshu, aham teshu na avastita. I am not situated in them. Okay. Kind of a strange thing to say, but all right. But then the next thing, what does Krishna say? Nachamatstani bhutani pashyame yogam aishvaram. It's an invitation. Pashya, come look, come see. Pashyame, come see me. This is possessive mama. The short form is me. Short form of mama is me. Pashyame yogam aishvaram. Mama aishvaram yogam. Come and see my, Prabhupada says, inconceivable mystic power. And the translation, and yet everything that is created does not rest in me, beholds my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation. For why? Because myself is the very source of creation. Now, there's a technical word we can take for this. Perhaps there are two terms. One is pantheism, which is the idea that God is co-extensive with the creation. What do I mean by that? I mean that everything we see, everything of this, of the world, of the universe, is God. It is equivalent, it's non-different. End of story. That's pantheism. We might want to say that's a kind of impersonalism, or we might want to say that's some sort of universal form understanding of God. What is that what Krishna is talking about here? No. Krishna is specifically distancing himself from pantheism, and he is saying, he is identifying, or he's giving the theology of what in English would be called panentheism. Panentheism, you just insert en to pantheism and get panentheism, is saying, yes, God is everywhere, God pervades everything because he is omnipresent, we say, and he is beyond everything. He is the creator of everything, and as the creator of everything, he is separate from everything. So that's what Krishna is saying in chapter 9, and he is suggesting that we, how should we feel about that? Because you may say, well, okay, so so what? Sounds kind of cool, but yeah, it's all anyway too much for me. It's too it's beyond my brain. But Krishna is inviting us. No, he says, Pashyame yogam aishvaram. Just see my mystic power. Aishvara, of course, comes from the word Ishvara, and Ishvara means Lord. So Aishvarya is translated often as opulence. We can say also lordliness. And so here it would be lordly yoga. But what is that? What is lordly yoga? It is the Lord's practice of yoga. We practice yoga to connect with God. God practices yoga to connect with us. And when God connects with us through his practice of yoga, that, in this context, Krishna is calling Aishvarya Yoga. And that's something only he can do. It's not something we can do. So from Krishna's side, he is making himself accessible. And simultaneously, he's keeping himself aloof. Inconceivably, simultaneously, one and different. Okay, so Krishna is telling about himself here in the beginning of chapter 4, so that we will gain faith that if we listen to him, it's going to be good for us. It's going to be beneficial. It's going to be liberating. It's going to free us from the sorts of disturbances, of troubles, of anxieties, all the things which Arjuna represents in his situation on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So if we listen to Krishna, there's every reason to anticipate a bright future. Okay, these are a few thoughts. I'll read the verse again, and maybe there's a question or a comment. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakriting svam adishtaya sambhavam yatma mayaya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, this is how Prabhupada is translating avyayatma, transcendental body that never deteriorates. And although I am the Lord of all entities, living entities, bhutanam ishvaro api, sun, this word sun comes twice. And it's the present participle of being, which to be is bhu. Anyway, it becomes sun. So being, although I am being, although I am ongoingly being like this, I still appear sambhavami. And Prabhupada here inserts something which is not in the Sanskrit, and that is the word, the phrase, in every millennium. He's anticipating the next verse, because there Krishna is going to say yada yada hi dharmasya, etc. And then the next verse after that, he's going to say yuge yuge, in every millennium. In every millennium, in my original transcendental form. Prakriting adishtaya, I am standing, I'm situated. Prakritim svam, my own swarupa, my unchanging nature is appearing. Seems Prabhupada is not directly translating Atma Maya in the verse, but he's translating it in his purport. The means or the way in which he appears. So, there we have it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for this lecture. Before I make a little comment and ask a question, there are some comments from the chat regarding your reference to Chinese whispers. Bhaktin Franka mentioned the German name, which is Stille Post.
Oh, yes.
Post. Kamala Radha Devidasi says the American name for that game is Telephone.
Okay.
There is also, by the way, a version that I saw on the internet with not with whispering, but with gestures. So the onlookers could see how it was transforming along the way. And there was, I think the initial gesture was something like this. Someone said like, I want to kill you or something. And in between it became, I'm brushing my teeth or something like that. It's even more hilarious. Yeah, there is also a question by Bhaktivendanta, but before I read out that question, I have a question. You mentioned that, yeah, we are forgetful have forgotten our last incarnations or last incarnations. We don't have any remembrance of what we have done in our last lives, and that we also tend to forget things in this life. And there is a question that we here in Berlin have been asking ourselves, and nobody seems to be able to remember. And someone told me that you should be the person who does remember, namely we would like to know, when was the exact day our deities were installed? It is.
Oh my.
Nobody here remembers the exact day. They say summer, maybe 97, maybe 98, and like different days. But when I asked Rohini Sutta Prabhu in Vrindavan some years ago, he said that I should ask you because you were here and you should be able to tell us, and you should be able to know. So,
well, now I can prove my point. But there's someone else you can ask, because I do remember very distinctly. Yes, Rohini Sutta Prabhu was there, and also Pankajangri Prabhu was there. And Pankajangri probably has, a brilliant memory because he's Pankajangri. What I do remember is that there was quite some discussion about whether it was all right to install the deities. It was a bit, I don't know if we can say controversial, but I think I was maybe on the more hesitant side. But the deities were there. But I remember quite distinctly that Pankajangri Prabhu just very kind of casually, and it was just kind of no problem for him. He said, yeah, go ahead. And because Pankajangri Prabhu said it, well, yes, if he says, then then we do it. Then it was no longer a question. Yeah. No, gosh, when would that have been? So it's pretty much the question, either 97 or 98, is that it?
Well, we would also like to know which day it was. Was it some festival? I mean, people whom I have asked couldn't tell me. They were like flabbergasted as to why their memory had left their minds. So was it a festival day? They said it was summer. Was it, I mean, is it any special day or just an ordinary date?
Well, it certainly would have been at least a Sunday.
That would make sense, yeah.
It was that much it would have been. Whether it was something more than that, no, sorry, no memory. Somebody, maybe if somebody can hypnotize me, I don't know.
Okay, then we'll go to Bhaktivendata's question. She asks, Hare Krishna Maharaj and devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. I have a question regarding verse 4 of chapter 9. Krishna says he is not in the living beings, but it is also taught that he is in everyone's heart as Paramatma. Could you kindly explain, Maharaj? Thank you.
Yeah, this is also something of the paradox. And of course, Krishna will say that he is situated in everyone's heart. elsewhere. He will say in chapter 13 and chapter 15, especially chapter 15, he says quite explicitly, Sarvasya cha aham hridi sannivishtaha. I am sannivishtaha. Sannivishta. I am standing. I'm very firmly, totally standing in the heart. Sannivishta. But Krishna is emphasizing different things at different times. And we'd have to look at commentaries. It would take me too long to look. I do happen to have Sridhar Swami's commentary next to me in Bengali script. I could look if he says something, but of course we could say, well, as Vishnu Narayana, or as Garbhodaka Shai Vishnu, Krishna is not in the heart. Rather, he's in the heart as Kshira, not, what do I want to say? Not Kshiradaka Shai Vishnu, not Garbhodaka Shai Vishnu. Kshiradaka Shai Vishnu. One of these forms, there's so many forms. He's in one of these forms, he's in the heart. And here he's saying, I'm not in the heart. I'm not in the living entities. I'm not situated in them, they're in me. And he wants to say that. Why does he want to say it? He wants to save that for later. That's kind of another point, and that's another way of understanding yoga. The Bhagavad Gita in general, we just finished doing a 18-part overview of the Bhagavad Gita for the Chinese audience, and it was called the 18 Yogas of the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is speaking, it's all yoga in different ways, from different approaches and making a different emphasis each time, but also always making the same point of yoga, which means to link, to connect with the Lord. And in Krishna's in the logic of Krishna's arguing to persuade Arjuna to fight the battle, he's making a lot of, he's going from different angles. He's sort of working from different angles to persuade Arjuna to surrender, to take up arms. So the Bhagavad Gita is structured like that. I see the next question here from Odarya Chandrika. You've said that Krishna appears because he has a purpose, and Arjuna and all of us, we are born in total ignorance. So how important is it for us to find the purpose in our life, besides to develop our relationship with Krishna? Well, our purpose is indeed to find our relationship with Krishna, and through that, all other purposes may be revealed. And certainly we have many purposes in the sense that we have many relationships in this life. We serve so many different people in so many different ways, and these we can say are meaningful purposes. Every time we interact with someone, every time we help someone, all kinds of ways, our relationships with others, we can say are purposes of our lives. And then we may feel, in addition to that, some particularly strong impulse, a kind of missionary spirit for how to be the most effective with what Krishna gives us. And that's very good. We want to discover that. And that's, of course, the general idea, we can say, of the Varna system, is to facilitate our making the best, as Prabhupada would say, making the best use of this life, best use of the bad bargain, so on. We want to also be a little careful that we don't say, I've found my mission, and so I don't care what anyone else does or says. I'm going to push my way through this world, and everyone should accept me with my newfound mission. Someone might think they found their purpose in life, and it's something crazy, you know. So we have to be careful. Of course, therefore, we have the threefold balancing system, sadhu, shastra, guru, to help us with that. But of course, we all feel, I think we all have some experience sometimes, sometimes more, sometimes less, that yes, there is this special purpose that I have in my life. And that's very liberating. So it's certainly something to aim for, to be open for. And yes, we can pray to Krishna, please allow me to understand what is my particular purpose in this life. Or if I don't have one, please give me one.
There is a hand being raised in Oslo. I think, I'm not quite sure. Oslo, det noen spørsmål? Are there any questions?
Yes. Can you hear me, Maharaj?
Yes.
Hi, Maharaj. I have a question because there is this comparison between Arjuna and Krishna. Krishna being in his original transcendental form, but and thus he's remembering everything because of that. But then again, you're saying, and acharyas are saying that Arjuna is his eternal associate. So doesn't he also have a transcendental form that doesn't change, and thus he should be able to remember? Just like Narada Muni in the 6th chapter of 1st canto, he's kind of saying when he gave up his body, his material body, he got a transcendental form, and then
he could remember.
Yeah, he appeared with the other sages, but Prabhupada said that he is also appearing in his original form, this transcendental body. He's not taking birth like that. He's just appearing there. So how is this? Arjuna is different. Is Arjuna different, or is he playing a pastime of being forgetful? Or I'm just trying to understand this.
Yes, that's a good question, and I'm thinking about that also. A distinction, of course, is made in just the name, Nara, Narayana. So Nara, of course, means has the meaning of human, human being. Narayana is the Lord. Whether the Nara of Narayan has a special kind of memory, being always connected with Narayan, is an interesting topic. And I think it would, we'd have to go look and see what our acharyas say, which kind of avatar is Narayan? Are they Shakti Avesha or what? Because if they are Shakti Avesha, this would suggest Nara is Jiva Tattva. I'm just guessing on that now, so I can't really say more. It's an interesting point. But for the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, obviously, Arjuna is forgetful. Does Krishna make Arjuna every time forgetful so he can every time hear the Bhagavad Gita again? After a while, you'd think Arjuna would say, I think I've heard this before. I must have heard this. I must have heard this before. Yeah. No, I don't know quite. I don't know how the acharyas would explain that. It's probably there somewhere.
Maybe Arjuna would say, no, please not again this Bhagavad Gita. Make me forgetful, Krishna. Please make me forgetful. I won't listen again.
Well, it's interesting that Arjuna, in the first canto Bhagavatam, after Krishna disappears, what does Arjuna say to Yudhishthir, or is it to Vidura? He says, now I am remembering that instruction which Krishna, Govinda, has spoken. I remember that. Because it seems that for some time he forgot, even within this life. So he heard it, and then that was enough for him to fight in the Kurukshetra war. And then later, when Krishna had disappeared, then he felt helpless without Krishna, but then he remembered the instructions. The question is here from Bashar. Yes, I didn't say this explicitly, but we can say that an aspect of the Lord's lordly yoga is that he does appear in this world for us to connect with us. That's, of course, what he's doing. That's the whole principle of avatar. Even though the word avatar never, Krishna never uses that word in the Bhagavad Gita, we understand from verses 7 and 8 of chapter 4 that that's what he's doing. He's crossing down, literally. Avatar means one who crosses down. So
there is a question from our temple audience.
Oh, okay.
He's coming in front of the camera, and here he is.
All right.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj.
Who is this?
Maharaj, my name is Shumit.
Sunit.
Shumit.
Hare Krishna Sunit.
Shumit with an M.
Oh, with an M. Sumit. Okay.
So Maharaj, my question is that as you have mentioned, when we were child and we were helpless, we had no worries about our future or about our past, about our food, about our life, about our shelter. But now after growing up, having shelter, having food, and after trying to surrender to the Lord, all the worries about the future are coming through in my mind somehow or rather. While meditating, while chanting, while reading the holy scriptures or Prabhupada's books. So my question is, how do I establish my faith on Krishna so much that I can surrender to him and I never worry about my future?
Ah,
That is my question, Maharaj.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a nice question, and it's something we all struggle with. My first response, my non-philosophical and immediate response is, when I realize it myself, I'll tell you. Well, we can anticipate what that might be like, first of all. See, we've become so accustomed to, thinking about the future and asking ourselves, oh, what about this, and what about this, and what about this, and what should I do? And it's endless. Tied in with that anxiety is also our hankering. We're longing for something that we feel that we don't have. So one of the things that we do in hearing from Krishna is we're given a kind of insight into what it could be like to be Krishna conscious. And so, for example, speaking about anxiety about the future, Krishna in the 18th chapter famously says, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Sochati Na Kankshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Lavate Param. You will know when you've reached this state, when you are completely satisfied within, prasanna atma, which has a sense of kind of luminosity, felicity. We may just say satisfaction. And specifically, not sochati, not kankshati, not lamenting, not hankering. Lamenting, we're usually doing about the past, or about something we don't have in the present. And kankshati, hankering, is usually oriented toward the future. But again, with a sense of something that we lack. So you can say the common feeling there is having a lack of something, having a lack of many things, having a lack of money, a lack of, we can make a long list of all the things we don't have. Na sochati, na kankshati. Just to imagine being in a situation a mentality where we're not lamenting, not hankering, what would that be like? Krishna is inviting us to, first of all, imagine that that is possible. And then samat sarveshu bhuteshu. This comes up again and again in the Gita to see all living beings with some sort of equal vision, whatever that means. To have equal vision, seeing everyone equally, seeing that everyone is part of Krishna. What would that be like? So he's challenging us to exercise ourselves, to put ourselves in that, as we say in modern English now, to put ourselves in that space. And the more and more we can do that, projecting ourselves, what if I could be like that? Then more and more we can catch the real sense of that, and more we can experience, yes, it's possible, it's the real thing. And all of that is going to come complemented with, or as we allow ourselves to be pulled by Krishna. Krishna means all attractive, a letting go of what we think is going to make us happy, and allowing ourselves to be drawn by what will actually make us happy. Because we're not concerned about being happy. As soon as we're concerned about being happy, we lose it. Happiness goes. Did that make any sense?
Yes, Maharaj, that made sense. And we have one last question from Hare Krishna Africa. Hare Krishna Africa, please unmute yourselves.
The whole of Africa is there.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna. Who is this?
Escuchadas.
Kusha. Prabhu.
Yes, Maharaj, Hare Krishna. Please, I wanted to ask you, this class, is it regular daily class this time, same time every day?
You're asking if I'm giving class regular time? No.
Yeah, yes.
No. Well, once a week, we have a gathering on Saturdays.
Okay.
Which we call the Saturday Sangha, and it's, Central Europe time is 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
Okay, but you remember you are giving class to Hare Krishna Africa next tomorrow, Bhagavatam?
I do remember. Thank you for reminding.
That is 10 a.m. in the morning, European time.
That, yes, I have noted. Thank you.
If I have your WhatsApp, I can send you the poster. Maybe you can share to your followers if they want to join the class.
Yes.
I have your poster already, but I don't know how to reach you.
Oh.
To send it to you.
Okay, well, I guess I can write it here on this Zoom group chat. Let's see how this works. Okay, now everybody's gonna know. Ay.
Raj, it's nice seeing you once again. Okay, I got it. Thank you. I will WhatsApp you the poster. Maybe you post on your Facebook page for anybody who wants to join the class. You're welcome.
Okay.
For next tomorrow.
Where are you? Where are you in Africa?
Actually, I'm from Nigeria, but I came into Germany last Friday. I'm in Germany right now.
Oh, I see.
I'll be here for 1 month, then I'll go back to Africa.
Okay.
I'm from Nigeria.
Nigeria. Okay.
Yes.
This is a whole nother world.
Yes. It's nice.
Is it nice there?
In Nigeria?
Yeah.
Sure, it's always sunny, no winter. Europe is cold for me. Always sunny, yes. No problem.
Okay. No problem.
Yeah. It's good.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
And thank you, Berlin Yatra.
Okay, I have one last question, if you don't mind.
Oh.
Is this program from Berlin?
Yes.
I've been trying to reach them since Friday I came. I don't know who to contact in Berlin. I wanted to pay a visit when I'm around.
Maybe they can.
Maybe I'll look on Facebook or website.
We do look on Facebook. You can write us a message via Facebook and we will answer that.
Thank you very much. I will do that. Arriba.
So thank you all again, and a good evening to you. And Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnavism ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.
Oh, you couldn't hear me, I think. Sorry. We hope to be able to host another lecture with Maharaj very soon. And thanks to all the devotees who have joined us all over the world. Tusen tak, dziękuję. Thank you very much. And see you soon. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.